Welcome to our podcast, Parenting by the Pint. Enjoy the show.
Greetings, Minivan Mafia. Lauren and I are longtime friends from Chicagoland that love getting together to chat about life, kids, family, and beer.
Each week, we'll feature a brewery and sample at least 2 of their beers.
We'll also discuss a variety of topics ranging from parenting, pop culture, travel, marriage, and just about anything else that comes to mind. Welcome, everybody. Hey, Lauren, how's it going?
Hey! Doing well. Can't complain too much. You know, the usual.
The usual pre-spring break madness, although this will come out during your spring break, but you're about to launch into a major trip.
Oh, man, yeah. So much packing, so much thing, so much last minute, just crazy.
Yeah, I think you told me you did 12 loads of laundry over the weekend.
Oh my God, all the laundry. I did all the laundry so that we could pack because we're going to be gone for like 10 days, 11 nights or something crazy. So so I'm like for 3 kids and me and my husband. So I was like, I need all the clothes.
That's Do
I even have that much underwear? Like, what's going on here?
We're planning this trip over the summer. Well, I'm sure we're going to do an episode where I'll eventually talk more about the summer trip or whatever. It is by far the longest trip that my family has gone on. And it's 17 days. And I know we'll be able to do laundry at least once, possibly twice.
Okay.
Maybe. But if we do, it will be at a point where there will still be at least 7 days left in the trip. So I need to make sure that we have like 10 days worth of clothes.
Yeah, I did not. I packed enough that we do not have to do laundry.
Yeah.
So that is how I went with this 10 nights thing. Was I packed like 13 shirts for everyone.
Yeah, I get it.
Just in case, and shorts and pants and everything.
Oh my goodness.
It's an excessive amount of stuff. But yeah, so there's my husband, however, was like, I'll just do laundry. And I was like, you do that. I don't feel like doing laundry for the kids and me. Maybe it's because I had just done laundry that I was like, no, I'm not doing that. But yeah, so we're there. So it'll be, we'll have to talk about some vacation stuff in, if a little bit in the future. But we are a little bit past the craziness of packing everything. And now I just have to make sure that I have like carry-ons for the plane to keep children occupied for 4 hours.
Yeah, that is another topic. Maybe we'll do like a trip prep episode someday where we don't actually talk about a specific vacation. We just talk about our preparing for vacation.
It's not a horrible idea.
Yeah,
all right, I'm writing
we'll put that on the hopper.
Jotting it down. That sounds great. All right, so let's drink some beer and talk about some other things.
Yeah, so today we are going to try Lo-Rez Brewing, which is in Pilsen area in Chicago. And the first one we're going to drink is called Damon, but not like the street in Chicago, Damon. Damon like demon. And it's a Belgian style golden ale. And it's got a demon on it.
It's called The Beast, the art says, actually. So artist out of Berwyn, it looks like, and it says title The Beast. So
I see that. Oh, that's what this dude is, maybe the Beast.
I guess the guy, his name is Fedz, F-E-D-Z, Berwyn, Chicago-based mixed media artist. Subject matter revolves around one's self-appearance and the human condition, giving these macabre creatures a playful attitude. They may even be considered cute in a way, except this one, the Beast.
I don't know. He's pretty cute with his little blue tongue.
He's kind of a cute little monster.
He looks like a baby demon.
Aw, he's so cute. He's kind of cute.
I
I think he's a little cute. So we're gonna drink.
Yeah.
We're gonna drink
Let's open this beer
Yeah,
and
Belgian style
drink it.
golden ale. It's a higher ABV than I expected, 8.5%.
Yeah, I noticed that when I grabbed it. I did not see that coming. So let's see if we can tell when we drink it.
Yeah, it's kind of nice. It's a golden color. The head is really nice on it.
I know, I
It's nice,
almost thought I was
airy and
gonna make a huge
fluffy.
accident.
Like it's like a fluffy. It's a very nice looking glass of beer. All
Yeah,
right, let's
well,
give it a try.
Belgian, you know.
Hmm. It's got some kick to it.
Yes, I do think it's 8.5%. I am getting that.
I
You
am
know,
getting
it's
that as
funny because
well.
first, like, hits my lips, like, first, and moment. I'm like, it tastes like a Belgian ale. It tastes like everyone I've ever had. And then I was like, oh, except a lot stronger.
Yes.
There it is.
So it's a bit stronger. When you give it a minute, give it a second, and you're like, oh, there it is. That's kind of how I'm feeling about this one.
Yeah, it just had like a little explosion of alcohol there just after the initial taste.
Yeah, that's a strong Belgian. I'm not against it. It's strong. This is a strong. Yeah, I mean it's definitely Belgian style.
I know, I mean, it brings memories of when I used to drink like Blue Moon and Stella and like those beer styles.
Yeah.
It doesn't taste exactly like those, but it's
No.
got
It's
that
got the
same
classic
profile.
flavor to it. And
Yeah.
then after you get that initial flavor, then you get the oh, it's got a bunch of alcohol in here.
Yes.
It is
Then it kind of smacks you in the face.
Yeah.
Which normally I am a fan of.
Yeah, it's tasty. It's got a good strong flavor. I mean, it's got a great color. It's, and a lot of Belgian style Goldens are a little bit more on the stronger alcohol side, but this definitely to me tastes like definitely got the alcohol finish to it. So it's a little malty on the front end, and then it finishes a little strong on the back end to me. But it's a solid beer. I mean, it's good. So
yeah.
All right, Lo-Rez. So yeah, they're in Chicago. They're out of Pilsen, which there's a couple other breweries in that area. Moody Tongue, I think, is right down there too.
Okay.
But so it opened in 2016, the brewery did. It started with two dudes in a garage. Dave and Kevin were the founders. They met in the late 90s. They were both working in the tech industry. So low res is kind of like the low resolution, like calm, chill, like less high impact, kind of relaxed type of a feel. But they were both working in tech and frequenting various Bucktown bars. I guess they had both worked together. One had hired the other, and the other had hired the other for various projects. One of them worked kind of more in startup. So they've, been around a bit and they were enjoying beers together. Dave was home brewing and then got Kevin kind of into it. There was an interview with Dave that said he started home brewing because he wanted cheaper beer. And then eventually when he got better at it, he wanted better beer.
Sure.
So it was an evolution of things he was looking for. And then they would, go to some dive bars, get drunk, say they should make their own beers, sober up, and decide it wasn't the best financial decision. And eventually they must have convinced themselves that it was. So in 2013, they started to really actually think about opening a brewery. Kevin went to Siebel, and then he actually also worked at Metropolitan. They both volunteered at Metropolitan for a period of time, and then Kevin wound up going and doing a 6-month internship kind of thing at Five Rabbits as well. So, and then Dave furthered his education with the Siebel certification, and also he's a beer judge, a certified beer judge. So I don't know what goes into that certification, but that's pretty cool, I thought.
Yes. Sounds like something I should look into.
Right? I want to be it's a BJCP, a beer judge certification program or something like that. So Google.
That's interesting. I wonder what kind of education is required.
Right?
I'm
What
gonna have
kind of
to check it out.
experience and testing, and I was intrigued. I am still intrigued. I think I might look
unofficially, I
into
feel like
that.
I'm already a beer judge. So like
Right?
now, if we just have to get a certificate, I think I could probably work that out.
I feel like there'd be it's definitely something to look into. How's that?
Yeah.
So anyway, so they started thinking about actually opening a brewery in 2013. In 2015, they found a place, the place that they're at in Pilsen, and they wound up breaking ground. It was an industrial type of a place that had some office stuff in one part of it. It's a 2,500 square foot facility, and they wound up doing most of the rehab work themselves. It's a late 19th century building, so it needed a bit of updating. They opened the brewery doors in 2016 and then wound up opening the tap room in 2017.
Okay.
So it is both kid and dog friendly if anybody's interested.
Cool.
And yeah, so these names aren't as much. Actually, Damon is, but a lot of their names of their beers, along with Lo-Rez in general, come from their kind of previous lives in the tech industry, and they have a lot of tech related names. I would bet that Damon is actually relating to tech, like
Okay.
so, and the spelling of it would lead me to believe that as well, but there's a bunch of their beers that have kind of that background of where they came from. So,
Okay.
Yeah, so kind of cool. I've never been there, so I don't
Me
even
neither,
know if
no.
I've actually ever had their beer. But I was like, hey, this sounds like something that would be worth checking out, so why not? Something
Yeah.
different.
Well, you know
Right.
us.
So.
Always worth a new brewery, right?
Always, always. There's like over 8,000 different ones we could try, so we gotta make a dent in it somewhere.
We're gonna try.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's our background on Lo-Rez that we got for you tonight. So
That
we'll
was
drink
awesome.
this Damon beer.
Yeah, and let's talk about a topic that for once I am not able to relate to from when I was a child. Because I thought
Yeah.
about that when I was writing for this topic and
Oh, that's a
realized
good
that I don't have
call.
any personal experience in this area. So let's finally dive into something like that, right? So what could we possibly
Yeah,
be
that's true.
talking about, right, you guys? Well, the moment we say it, you're going
hmm
to be like, oh, yeah. And that would be cell phones for our kids. Oh,
Yeah.
man. The most and least
Yeah.
enjoyable decision we get to make as parents at this point, I believe, because they want one and we don't want them to have one. And then we come around and what brings that about, right? And that's what we're going to discuss, how we landed on this topic, why
Yeah.
it's important and relevant.
We are just there. In my
Yep.
household, actually, the twins just got phones yesterday. So this is very
Wow.
appropriate topic because we
Very.
went back and forth on this and what do we do and how do we justify and all these things. And yeah, you're right. I didn't have a cell phone till I went away to college almost, maybe a year
Probably or
before that. And like when I was
close.
driving
Yeah.
distances in my vehicle, I think. And that's when but it was the size of a brick. Like you could hurt
Oh,
somebody with it.
yeah.
So,
It
and
was a
you couldn't
weapon.
do anything. Like you could call, and that was like it. So,
Yeah.
not exactly the same situation as where we're at now in this world. But yeah, so let's dive into this decision that we've both had to make in the recent past.
Yeah, let's do it. So I started out when we presented this idea by asking my kids let me say both of my children who are not 9 and almost 12 but 11
hmm
have cell phones at this point. And when I approached them about this topic earlier today, I said, what were your arguments for getting a cell phone? What do you remember,
hmm
saying were the reasons why you felt like you should get a cell phone? My oldest has a lot more experience with this, and I'll explain why. Because he did have to kind of advocate a lot more than my youngest. And he was basically like, I wanted to play games with my friends. We were able, who also had phones. I wanted to be able to call my parents, to call us, and his cousins who also have cell phones. My younger one, didn't have any other device at all when the phone kind of came into being. So this was just a way for him to basically play any sort of like tablet related game, because he had nothing for a long time. And he also mentioned calling and texting us as an opportunity to, be able to communicate if there was ever a time where he wasn't with us. And that does occasionally happen. I'll get into that too. And then I started to think, well, what were the reasons why we decided to give our kids phones? And honestly, the list is pretty similar. Their arguments are pretty good. I wanted them to be able to communicate when we weren't together. I did want them to be able to entertain themselves with it if that was something they wanted to do. I am at peace with that idea, and I'm realistic. My kids are going to play games on a device. It's going to happen. I'm not going to completely eliminate it from our lives. I'm sorry. It's
I totally agree. Honestly, like I took a tablet away from my oldest, like I don't remember, last weekend for some reason, and my husband was at work, and it was just me and the kids, and I was texting my husband, and I was like, this is more punishment for me than it is for him right now. I'm gonna stick with it because he needs to recognize something
now.
taken away. However, like I recognize the the helpfulness and the need, maybe not the need, but the desire to give them something to entertain themselves on their own too. So that wasn't a driving force necessarily, but it definitely it is a fact that that is something that they can entertain themselves with. My son, my twin boy, plays a couple of games that are not tablet related games. They are on phones only, and he would always steal my phone to play his games. And again, this wasn't the driving force, but it's a heck of a lot nicer that he can just use his own phone instead of stealing mine to go play whatever game he's trying to play. So
sure. Plus,
it's
it doesn't
an added
clutter up your
bonus
phone.
here.
Yeah. I mean, not only is it not bugging you for your phone, which I'm the kind of person that doesn't really like to just pass off my phone to one of my kids. Like, I've done that. And on the occasions where I have done it, I have just been like, well, what am I going to do now? Like, and what happens when I get texts or messages or calls or whatever, and they're using my phone, and I'm not like so private that I worry about them, but I do occasionally get a text or a message of some kind that's a little bit maybe adult.
Sure, a picture, a meme, a thing, who knows? You can't control what people send you.
Yeah, and I don't want to, put in their line of sight, So
yep, no, I totally get that. Yeah, so that's just an added bonus to this. So yeah, so obviously your son is the oldest of everybody, so he got, the phone first probably.
Yes, he did. And that was sort of the next way that the next subject that I was going to hit on was why and when, or why now, why at the time that we gave them the phones, did we? And for my older son, who, like I said, is now 11 and is in 6th grade, our attitude was that we knew we wanted him to get a phone before middle school. And one thing that I have learned since he has gone to middle school is that once in a while he will stay after to go to a club meeting that he did not previously notify us of, because the school has like an activity bus. It's not a big deal, but I wouldn't know about it if he didn't have the ability to communicate with me. I mean, I suppose he could probably go to the school office and they would call me. Like,
that's if he put forth the effort to do
I know,
that.
right?
Like the odds of our children having the thought to be like, I'm gonna go do that is slim to none.
It's
I mean, I'm
almost
just
zero.
saying.
Like,
Yeah.
there's almost, I mean, I suppose he could have asked a teacher to email me. That's probably more likely, but still, let's just like, but look at how
The odds are
inconvenient
not
those
good.
things are.
Yeah.
So as a result, we knew that middle school was going to be the milestone where we would for sure act. We landed on Christmas present after turning 10. So
Okay.
he turned 10 in June of that particular year, and then in December he got a cell phone for Christmas. And the reason we kind of went that route was because that was what my brother did with his kids. And at that point, my youngest nephew would have gotten a phone. So we were sort of behind them a little bit, which I thought was less harmful to everyone's ego, I guess. If I were to have given him a phone, I think before my youngest nephew, I think there would have been a little bit of hostility there. And,
gotcha.
it wasn't really that huge of a deal for us until that point, so it didn't really matter. So we sort of stayed in line with that. And it worked out really well. My older son did advocate really hard for a phone earlier. If it had been up to him, he probably would have gotten it the summer after 4th grade. That was when sometime in 4th grade, he started talking about it. And then by the time he left school at the end of 4th grade, he was pushing pretty hard. I will say that because we had the bad place and he was home
it wasn't as big of a deal when the kids were home all the time too.
Because when he left school, it was 3rd grade and there weren't kids really with cell phones. So when he left, it wasn't like everybody gave him their number and he had no way to get in touch with them. That wasn't a thing. They didn't do that. They didn't have that. So like when he got back to school, which for him wasn't until 2nd semester of 4th grade, and even then it was minimal, that was really kind of when it started, when he started to talk about possibly getting a phone. And that carried on, for those months basically until it finally happened at Christmas. And he knew it was going to. We talked about it. It wasn't a complete surprise.
Sure.
And I even did a little setting up of the phone before Christmas where I even had him look at it. Because I wanted him to be able to use it kind of right away. And so that was for him. Now, my youngest, who just turned 9, got a cell phone probably about a month before his 9th birthday, which is vastly different than my oldest. This is not close. There's no, and honestly, when we were presented with the opportunity for him to get a cell phone, I had a conversation with my older child and was like, hey, here's this. I need you to weigh in on this because I don't want you to be like furious with us for the rest of your life. I don't want to hear about this.
Right, he got
at your
something
rehearsal
more
dinner,
than me before. Yeah, blah blah blah.
I don't want to be hearing this story for the rest of my life. So tell me how you feel. And he didn't care at all. He was just like, whatever, it doesn't matter. I don't care. If you want to give him a phone, just give him a phone. So yes, he was cool, which is great. And the reason why my younger son got a phone at the time that he did, he already used a phone as a tablet. So he didn't have cell service. So
we had old iPhones that the twins both have used for a while now, but they were just on Wi-Fi. So
exactly. So my youngest had that. And basically what happened was when my father passed away, we had his phone service and it was prepaid for a year.
Oh, so somebody had to use it.
We just renewed it in like November, of course. And so my brother and I were having a conversation about his actual phone, not his service, but his actual phone. And it was like a brand spanking new phone too, of course. And we were talking about, well, let's give it to one of the kids. And we ended up giving it, I think, to my nephew. I don't remember, one of them, who had a really old phone. And my brother was like, well, if we're going to do that, we can kind of shuffle phones down a little. And it meant that my youngest was going to get a newer phone than the one that he was using. And I was like, well, maybe we'll take the SIM card from my dad's old phone and change the number. And we just decided to do that. Like, I was like, let's just change his phone number. And my little one will take that SIM card and we'll just use this service that we already paid for.
Well, and it's dumb to not use it at all. Like, that
it would have
like,
been throwing it in the, what am I going to do with this? I'm going to throw it away. Like,
right. So he kind of just fell into having a phone.
So that was exactly. But all of that being said, I did have a conversation with my husband and with the older son to kind of like, hey, I'm not just going to unilaterally decide to do this thing.
Sure.
Everybody who normally would be involved in kind of this is going to be involved. And my husband was kind of like, well, I don't think that we would be doing this if it weren't for this situation, but it doesn't mean I'm against it. And,
right.
And my older son was just kind of like, I don't care. We can play games together. That's great.
Yeah.
And I'm
all
like,
right,
yeah,
that's cool. Yeah, sure. Go for it.
My youngest, when it comes to using the phone in the fashion that I would like them to use it, which which is like calling me and texting me and keeping in touch. My youngest is excellent at it. He doesn't have a lot of occasions where it comes up, but he does go to this little boy's house down the street. And it is nice for me to call / text him when I need to be like, hey, dinner's in 15 minutes. And he just comes home in 15 minutes.
It's really nice to not rely on having to contact the other parents at that point to be like, hey, can you send my kid home, or we're coming to get him, or et cetera, et cetera. So that's actually really convenient to be able to just contact your own kid.
Yes.
So we made a conscious decision to get the twins' phones. We had been talking about it a while. Honestly, they didn't really advocate for it as much as we felt like it would be beneficial and a peace of mind to us. So when my husband is at work and I have to, for example, like today or on Saturday, on normal Saturday if he's on shift, my oldest goes to therapy, my daughter goes to voice, and my youngest goes to lacrosse, and often they overlap. So one of them might have to wait 10 minutes till I go pick them up, or I might be running late because something happened, or 55 sucks. So if I'm trying to pick up my oldest, it might be later than I expect. So a lot of this was even stemmed from even last summer. Last summer, I even started thinking about it because my oldest was about 35 minutes away at lacrosse for 3 hours, 3 days a week. And one time there was a tornado warning, and I was nowhere near there. It's outdoors. There's no phones. There's no office. There's nowhere to call. And there's like 50 kids. So I'm like, if I needed to be like, where are you? I'm coming, whatever. I had no way to contact him at all. And so like that actually worried me more than him asking, because I was like, if I'm dropping you off and you're going to be there for 3 hours and it starts pouring down rain, or like I said, the tornado sirens are going off, like I don't know where you're going to be. Like maybe another coach takes you and you go somewhere. Like, I have no clue. So that's what prompted me to really start thinking about it, is like, our kids are at things for extended periods of time, not necessarily right next to the house. Like they couldn't get home from where they're at, and even driving, it's on the highway 35 minutes away. So they practice in Linwood some days. Like, I mean, it's practically Indiana. So that was more of my like, okay, I need to be able to get a hold of you more so than you even need to be able to get a hold of me, and I have no means of doing that right now. So we started thinking about it, talking about it. Our caveat for now was, if you get straight A's this year for your birthdays, and so they've both kept up their grades thus far through the third quarter, at least. We don't have fourth quarter grades yet, but and it's a month before their 9th birthday, but my husband I needed my phone replaced because it was cracked and I couldn't actually hear out of it. So he went and just bought me a new phone one day and brought it home to swap out. And he calls me and he's like, the phones are on sale. It will cost us $20 more a month to get each of the kids' phones. Like, but that ends Friday. And I was like, okay, so it's now or we wait, and then we might pay double. And I'm like, just get them, even if we don't give them to them today, just buy them. Like, we know we're going to do this sometime in the next couple of months. At this point, just get them. Like, so he bought them, and we waited like a week or so to do anything with them, and then we sat them down and was like, all right, you're gonna get them early, but and then we laid out a whole bunch of rules. And I asked you about how you monitor your son's phone. I asked our friend Megan how she monitors her son's phone. You both use the same app, so I was like, all right, well, I guess this works out.
That is a comfort to hear.
So, and she was like, it's great. When I know he's ignoring me, I can just lock him out of his phone. And I was like, that actually sounds great.
Yeah.
So there's some good functions there, but that was part of our concern is like life is so much different now than it was when we were kids. We never even thought about a phone. I texted my brother because we entered a handful of phone numbers into the twins' phones in case they need to get a hold of someone or if they want to text their uncle or whatever. And so I sent their phone numbers to my brother and he was like, whoa. Like that was his only response. Was like, whoa, they have phones. And my mom said the same thing. She's like, wow, you guys have phones already? And I was like, it makes sense. Like I am fine with our decision. I have no problem justifying this. And it's not even I will say that I am surprised at the number of third graders that have their own phones because my daughter was relaying like so and so has a so and so, and this wasn't even their justification. They were just like, oh yeah, this person has a phone and this person has a phone, and she like rattles off like 10 people, and I'm like, that's kind of a lot that have phones, but we're jumping on this bandwagon too, so I get it. But it's just surprising because when we were kids, it wasn't even a thing. Like I had a pager in high school, like, but that was about it. And certainly not in grade school did I have quite literally anything. This was never even a thought. But nowadays there are, and there's a lot of scenarios that it makes sense. There's a lot of times, my kids do sleepovers at friends' houses, and that's another concern. Like if you need me for something, if you don't feel well and you're not comfortable walking around a stranger's house in the middle of the night waking somebody up, like you can call me on your own without. And when we were kids, everybody had house phones, so you could just find a phone, that was sitting in the kitchen or the family room and call home if you wanted to.
Yeah.
That's not a thing anymore. Most households don't have a house phone, so you can't just go find a phone and call your mom, So I think that was also a factor. Like we may at some point and have like ran to the store and then come home and been like, don't open the door, don't turn on the stove, like whatever. But again, another peace of mind of them having a phone to call if they need something, and it's probably like pick up chocolate milk or something, but whatever. If they had to. They seem relatively like they're excited to have a phone, but they seem almost relatively indifferent to it. Like they want to download some games, but like it's not really any different than if they would have just had a tablet. Like they're not. And I think part of it is even with their phones that they had that didn't have service, they were on Wi-Fi. They were associated with my husband's iPhone account, so they could text from them. It would show up on my husband's number, like it would show up, but they could text their friends from their phone. And they did
that makes
periodically,
sense.
like my friend Barb, her daughter, they would text with her.
Okay.
And at some point I had to sit my daughter down and be like, okay, here's the etiquette of texting. You don't do it before 7 a.m., even if you wake up at 5:30 in the morning.
Oh, geez,
You don't do it late at night. You don't like if you've texted somebody once or twice and they don't respond, you wait till they respond. You don't keep texting and talk to yourself.
You better hope she doesn't marry a guy like my husband, though, because if I waited for, let me just scroll really quick here and show you the 50 million texts that I've written and the one-word answer I get every 12 messages.
Okay. Yeah. So for now, at her age, these are the rules. Also, I had to go with if someone sends you a chain letter, that's what this is. And it says forward this to 15 people. You do not forward it to anyone.
Yeah, please I had to have
that conversation with my daughter as well, because kids will forward her things, even on like Kids Messenger. And I'm like, no, I need to cut this off. I know you don't know what this is, but you don't send any of this to anyone. Like, and I never thought about having to have these random conversations with my children, but now I'm like finding more and more things. Like, as soon as we turn on my son's phone, 3 like spam phone calls came in. One was like New York, one was, and I said, if it is not in your contacts, you just ignore it, or you bring it to me and I'll tell you if it's somebody we know, but otherwise you ignore them. Like, but
I mean, my oldest has had a lot of that, and has been has seemed to handle it fine. Like, he doesn't answer or respond to rogue texts or anything like that. I will say one thing that we have been dealing with that really drives me crazy is that my oldest does this thing where he puts every call on speaker.
Oh, that's obnoxious.
And he talks to you while holding his phone in his hand in front of him. And it takes every fiber of my being not to scream, because he can't hear you. He can't hear you because he does that. And like, he'll call me. So one of the things that we have done is we drop him off at karate. We used to stay and sit outside, and I don't do that at all anymore because he has a phone and it's a block from my house. But what it means is usually he just calls when class is over and he has to like change and then walks outside. And so since it's a minute away, it's literally a minute away. It takes me longer to physically get my shoes on and get in the car than it takes me to get there. Okay. So he'll call me to tell me that karate is over. And depending on the weather, I will be like, go outside or wait till I pull up and I'll call you or whatever.
Yeah.
But because he's in the dojo, when he calls me, there's noise in the background. He puts me on speaker and he's just like, I am like, hello. And then he goes, yeah, class is over. And I go and I say exactly the same thing. This conversation is the same every single time. Okay, I'm on my way. Or I'm already outside. I got here early. I say one of two things. Okay. Because those are always the way it is. Yeah. And he goes, what? What'd you say? What? Karate is over, mommy. Karate class is over. Are you coming? Are you outside? And I'm just like, no.
Dude. Yeah. No, just no.
It drives me insane. And then every time he gets in the car, and this is where I channel my best Mr. Rogers, because I try not to have a freaking meltdown every single time. Every time he gets in the car, he sits down next to me and I go, hey, when you call me and you're at karate, can you not put me on speaker? And he goes, oh, well, I can hear you better that way. And I went, no, that's not the problem. It's that you don't put the phone to your ear. See, the top of the phone goes by your ear and then the bottom goes by your mouth. That's why it's the length that it is. So it fits in your face area. And he's just like, oh, you don't want me to put you on speaker because I can't hear you. And I was like, you can't hear me. And he goes, I can hear you. And I go, well, then why do you keep shouting what at me? And he was like, because I wasn't listening.
Well,
why did you call me? Why did you call me if you didn't want me to say anything. Why are we doing? Just text.
Oh, children.
Then.
Yeah, also that. Yeah.
Just text me.
Karate's done. Okay,
this is why people don't like to talk on the phone.
That's actually a prime example of why people don't like to talk on the phone. I will say that up until I got a new phone, I had to put it on speaker because I couldn't hear out of it because it was broke. So I had to put it on speaker all the time, or I just ignored things and was like, just text me. I can't hear you. Now I can hear from my phone, so that works. But
it's amazing.
Yeah, I don't think the twins have even called anyone on their phones yet. Like they've texted a couple of people. They texted like my Barb's daughter, our friend's daughter, they texted, and I think my daughter has a couple of friends that have phones, but I'm limiting the friends' phones because I don't know, we'll see. We'll see if there's a reason for them to be able to text their friends. This
I will say one thing that I like, as if someone was like actually looking for advice about getting their kid a phone. One thing that I would say is, you mentioned like putting in numbers for like friends and family and stuff like that. One thing I did do once we gave the kids the phone is I said, okay, I put some contacts in your phone. I put grandma and papa and your dad and me and your cousins. And I was like, and then I said, and I put Tori, who's my brother, in your phone, and Linda, who is a friend of mine that lives in Bolingbrook in the same town as us. And I said, there are a couple of adults in here that are in here for you to call if you can't get a hold of me or your dad.
Yep.
And I prioritized them. I said, the first person that you should probably call if something is wrong or you can't get a hold of me and your dad is Tori, because Tori is one of those people that always answers his phone and doesn't live far away. And he will immediately drop what he is doing and come get you if that were to be necessary. And I was like, and then you can call Linda. And those are interchangeable. You could try one and then the other. I'm pretty comfortable with both. And they both know this, that they are that person. And we established that with both of our kids, and we established that with people that we put in their phones. And we were like, listen, if he ever calls you, it's probably because he really needs you to answer.
He can't get a hold of.
And it might not be an emergency, but he might need you to answer to be helpful in some way.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair.
So we kind of tried to establish that as sort of a next level of defense should you not be able to get a hold of me. Or if something happened to me, I'm home alone with my kids a lot.
Yeah.
And if something were to happen, if I, God forbid, fell down the stairs and knocked myself out, which I am very capable of, because I am very clumsy, I want them to be able to call
someone and know who to call. Yes, agreed.
Yeah, sure. My kids would hypothetically call 911 if I was actually in danger, but they would know that they also should call, my brother,
somebody,
or my friend, so that hypothetically, if the fire department shows up,
they're not by themselves then.
They're not just alone in the house. My brother would show up briefly after. Ideally.
We put, honestly, there's mostly right now adults, because my kids don't have cousins, like actual blood related cousins. So we have my parents, who would be, like we've said, are their first people they call, because first of all, they're both retired. My mom answers her phone all the time, and they're 6 minutes from our house. So that would be the first person to call would be grandma, because she's most likely to answer and is probably around. So but we also put my godparents in there, who are not super close, but they could, swing by. My husband's parents are in there. I would say we didn't say that they were the next people necessarily. We should probably say what order of priority to call. They know to call my mom first. That would be, or good. Whichever one of us is home or not home. Like my number's in there, my husband's number's in there.
Sure.
My brother's number's in there, but he's not close and half the time isn't in the state of Illinois. So that wouldn't be someone to go to, but also my friend Barb and our friend Megan are in there as well because they're both relatively close in proximity, often home. Hopefully they would be farther down the list of people to call, but if they needed to,
Yeah.
we told them they are in there for that. So, and then, they have a couple of friends in there, but that's about it as of right now. So this isn't really for now to play with or to talk to their friends nearly as much as it is for us to be able to get a hold of them. I'm sure as they get older, that will change. My son, one of his best friend's older brother, is in fifth grade, and he and all of his friends have cell phones. Like
Sure.
by the time, but also middle school for us starts in fifth grade.
Oh, yeah.
So that's when their electives start. That's when a lot of their clubs start. That's when they go to a completely different school, is fifth and sixth grade. So a lot of kids in our area at least wind up with phones around that age too. So I'm sure they'll have more friends with phones as they get a little bit older, but for us now it's more for me to be comforted with being able to get a hold of them. And we set ground rules. Like, first of all, you need to keep your grades up or your phone gets taken away like immediately.
Sure.
That's just if you're not trying, then you don't get it. If you don't stick with what we've told you and do your chores, or if we find out you're lying to us about anything, like the first form of punishment at this point now is you don't get your phone anymore. And I'm
Yeah.
not entirely sure if that's going to even work because I'm not sure how much they care about the phone. So
That's a
we'll
good point.
evaluate that as time goes on, but they definitely only get it if they keep up with the rules. Now, I did ask a variety of people, like, how do you monitor it? How do you, track what they're doing or things like that? And we do generally trust our kids. They are not allowed to watch YouTube even at home. We don't have it on their phones. We took that as an app that they
Yeah.
aren't allowed to use.
Mm-hmm.
They can't download anything without my approval, so it's not like they
Yeah.
can even download anything really. And my husband specified, like, these are our phones. We're letting you use them, but we can look at them anytime, and everything is tracked, like, and we can lock it at any time. Honestly, one of the things that we really wanted was the location that they can't turn off. And there's a lot of apps that they don't have that as a lock. So with,
Mm-hmm.
the Google Family Link or whatever, like they can't turn location off. So you can
Right.
see where they're at all times. And that was something that was important to us to be able to say where are you? Or where is the
Right.
phone for that matter?
Yes.
Also if they lose it, it doesn't get replaced. So
I had to use location on Family Link to discover that my son left his phone on Thunder Mountain Railroad at the Magic Kingdom at Disney World. So fortunately, everything has a purpose. And the best part was when I walked up the exit of the ride and was like, my son left his phone. They said, was it an iPhone or an Android phone? And I said, Android phone. And they were like, in the walkie-talkie, they were like, bring the box of Android phones. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And then they were like, what color is the case? And it was my old phone. So I know exactly what it looks like. And I was like, it's purple and black. And they were like, this is your phone. And they had a box. Not like a big box, like a shoe box.
Sure.
Can't imagine what the iPhone box must have looked like. It probably was like a
bigger
pallet.
Right.
But I was just like, bring the iPhone box or bring the Android box. And I was just like, oh my goodness.
I can
Everybody.
only imagine how many phones get lost at Disney on a daily basis. Oh my gosh. That's
Yeah, I would love to know that number.
But yeah, so that was important to us. My husband, I feel like, is taking this a little bit like more not seriously, but like worried about it more than I am. I'm like, it's a phone. They already have access to our computers. They have access to their tablets. They have access to the internet on everything that they do. Like, we have more control over their phones than we do anything else. Like, we have 2 computers that they could just use. Like, we don't monitor that. I don't look at the history on my browser on our laptop. Technically, they could use that without me even knowing. So,
it's funny because like you asked me about Family Link, which is what I use to monitor, and like I have turned so many of the things off, like over the time that my son, mostly my oldest, I'm going to just say him mostly because the youngest,
we don't even have time limits started on our phones. Like we never even set them up because I was like, I'm just going to have to turn this off. Like, so I'm not even going to bother.
Yeah. Well, and I used to have all of that. Like it used to be like, oh, you can only use this for an hour and you can only use that for an hour. And
yeah, I didn't even bother with that.
Right. Well, and the worst part would be like, okay, so let's say hypothetically you only want your kid to play games on the phone 2 hours a day. Well, what if they want to play the same game for 2 hours, but you have it set up as an hour for this and an hour for that, but they don't want to play the other?
Yeah,
then I gotta
too
turn
much of
it
a
off
hassle to me.
Or add
and then my
time.
my husband was like, well, there's no reason for them to be on their phone after like 9 o'clock at night. And I was like, that is not true, because what if they're with a babysitter and we're not home and they need to be able to call out or they need to be able to do something? There's a totally valid reason for them sometimes to be able to use their phone after 9 p.m.
I will say, however, you can set like your number
Certain
to be
numbers.
the emergency call number. Yeah. So they can bypass that, because my oldest son does have a time where his phone locks him out at night and then back on in the morning. And he has called me because my kids used to do this thing when I would go out where they would call me at like 9 o'clock to ask me when I was going to be home without fail. And it wouldn't matter if I had just left the house. It would be like, when are you going to be back? And I would be like, I just got to where I was going.
Bed, dude.
So late. The answer is late. And they'd be like, what kind of late? Like 10?
Nope.
No. It's gonna I would have to leave right now to be home by 10.
No.
Stop calling me.
Yeah, our phones are set up to not be able to use during the week, Monday through Friday, after 9 p.m.
Yeah.
Or before 6 a.m.
Yeah.
Our kids wake up at the crack of freaking dawn. But I did not set that for the weekends.
Yeah.
So
ours are basically set. That's really kind of the only restriction I have left on there, is that sort of stuff. There was a time where I had it so that they wouldn't unlock until my son would leave for school, because I didn't want him playing games in the morning before school.
Gotcha.
And I have since weakened on that.
Dude, our kids wake up like 2 hours before they leave for school. Me too. I'm like, I'm not going to entertain you. Like, feed yourself breakfast. I don't want you to
bug me either.
Yeah, well, I wake up my alarm goes off at 5:45 every morning, and my oldest gets on the bus at 7:15. But in between there, I start working at like between 6:30 and 6:45. So I come downstairs to work. So like the kids feed themselves, because like, I'm sorry guys, like if you need me, come downstairs. But like, I have breakfast for my oldest on the table at 6:30 in the morning. And then I come down and I start working. So if they want to be on their phone at 6 o'clock playing a game, I don't care. Like, that is not something I'm going to worry about. Well, and that was basically
the attitude that I had about it. Eventually, I was like, if you start running late, you miss the bus, then we take this away.
Yes, agreed. Yeah, but they have Alexa set a timer for them, an alarm when the bus.
Yeah, my son does too. He has timer. He has alarms on the phone, so he has like a wake up alarm and then a leave the house alarm, just in case. Yeah, he doesn't wake up, which I don't know that he's ever not awake already, but
they have alarm clock. So other thing, and then let's drink this next beer. We actually told them that their phones charge downstairs in the kitchen. They don't even have their phones in their rooms. So when they go to bed, there's no temptation for them to use them because they're downstairs. So if they get up at 6 and they want to come down, and they come down anyways to eat or whatever, then they can grab them. But otherwise they're downstairs, and they have had alarm clocks for a while, like just regular old alarm clocks. Like my son uses my husband's from when he was a kid. This alarm clock's gotta be like, is it like that brown
one with the grates on top?
That's exactly what it is.
That's a good alarm clock.
Like, that's the alarm clock my son uses. still to this day, he's
That's
still using that
fantastic.
alarm.
That's such great news. My kids do have alarm clocks in their rooms. My youngest does not keep his phone in his room, even if he wanted. He doesn't. I mean, he chooses not to. We didn't really regulate that. My oldest does because he uses it as an alarm.
Sure.
And I hadn't really thought about it. He does have an alarm clock. My son's alarm clock, first of all, his room shares a wall with my room. His alarm clock is so loud and so obnoxious. And he's so bad at like setting it and not setting it. And like, I can't bear the thought of his alarm clock waking me up at 7 on a Saturday morning. I just can't bear it.
Yeah.
And it would be, unless I remember
turn it off.
Turn it off, it would go off at 7 on Saturday mornings, and I would just I can't handle that. The emotional weight of that is too much for me. I have to be able to sleep in. My kids have finally reached the point where no one bothers me on Saturday morning. I can just sleep.
That's nice.
And I can't lose that. I cannot have that taken away from me, not even once.
Yeah, I get it. That's totally fair.
We do the phone alarm because phones are smart and you can pick the days of the week that it wakes you up. And I just like, it's fine.
That's fine. Our kids are pretty good about not, so with the 50-year-old alarm clock, you have to just turn it on and off every day.
Yeah.
And he's actually really good about that, and it works, and that's what they're used to. So we're just sticking with that.
I think with some training that would have worked with my son.
Yeah,
now it's too late because we've already done the phone thing, and I'm not going to mess with that. But like, and I know my youngest, like, if I started setting his alarm, he would get there. He would be able to develop that routine really easily, I think, because he's good at stuff like that. But my oldest, it would take him a year to get into the habit. Dude doesn't even shower every day without being yelled at. I mean, there's no way.
We need a hygiene conversation too at some point, because like I have to remind the kids to do freaking everything. And I'm like, don't you just want to, like, all right, different conversation. Anyways, let's drink another beer.
Yeah, because we've been talking about, I didn't even know that this topic was really going to go on for very long. And we totally like
we're
had
like
a lot to say. But to be fair, cell phones for kids is a really big deal. So that makes sense.
It is now. Yeah, this is a very common conversation from what I've gathered amongst many of my friends. This is a very foamy beer.
Yeah, I did. I'm gonna make a huge mess. No, I almost made a huge mess with this.
All right, we're drinking Knockout. Is that what this is called? Tart Saison Ale with apricots.
Yep, you got it.
There's a weird thing. It's like a monster in a costume.
That was what I was gonna say. Is he wearing like a frog costume or something, and he is like something else?
There's like the top is like a tentacle almost, that like pink and black thing. I don't know what that is.
What is that?
I don't know what's going on here. All right, what is this?
This is weird.
Artist exploring the interaction of innocence and evil. Okay.
Oh, that's nice.
Subconscious memories and fairy tales. Applying the aesthetics of sweets, subconscious memories, and fairy tales to disturbing characters. This guy's name is El Nino Luchador. One creature of many that the artist has created to blend the dark and twisted with dreamlike bright colors and costumes. I mean, it's not a wrong depiction. I just have no idea what this character is. All right, let's drink.
I guess.
Tart Saison. I get the tart.
I get tart too.
Lots
I don't
get apricot. I'm not getting the apricot so much.
No.
Maybe a little, but I don't think I would have differentiated apricot versus just some sort of like generic fruit flavor with this. Like,
yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know. I think I could mistake this for other fruit and not realize it. You know what I mean?
I will say apricot is a more earthy fruit. compared to
and
some
I do
other
get that. I do
things.
get that.
However, I could say this is mango or guava or something that's not overly
mango. I could see
sweet.
mistaking this for mango for sure.
I could very much see mistaking this for something that's, obviously it's not an orange, a tangerine, but I could mistake this easily for a different fruit outside of just apricot.
Yeah.
It's not bad. I just don't the fact that apricot is in the description, on the can, I'm not getting a overwhelming flavor of apricot, but it's definitely got a tartness to it.
Oh yeah. But I do think perhaps that is in part because of the apricot flavor. So
could be.
I guess I'm getting more of it as we go on with it here a little bit.
Yeah.
But that was good. Lo-Rez was fun, and this conversation was very thorough.
Yes, very much top of mind for us at the moment, or at least for me at the moment. So this was great. Yeah, Lo-Rez was good. So I'm happy with our beers and our conversation this evening.
Yeah, we will catch you guys next time.
Yeah, bye. Thanks everyone for listening to the latest musings from Parenting by the Pint.
Be sure to find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to us wherever you find your podcasts.
Have a great week, and cheers to you all.